welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
That's me. Hi, guys. Happy Friday. It is hot here in Florida. I would say that probably global warming, but, you know, who believes in that? So I don't know. I'm here with all of my hot Florida nappy girls. I thought I'd just let it be tonight, and it looks crazy, so I'm excited about that. I'm just feeling energized after this week's research. I can't wait to share the story. We're going to end today's show with the StoneWall uprising, and it has like put a fire under my butt, man. It really has. So I'm excited about tonight's show, you guys. So glad you guys are here. I love everybody that I love is already here. It's good stuff. We're ready to nerd out on Friday night.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. What are we gonna nerd out with first, Matt?
We're gonna nerd out with the economy.
I knew it.
Push my glasses off.
Yes. Put some tape
on. My glasses off. All right, so yeah. First things first. I've been wanting to do this for a little while, and I'm not going to throw us into as much as of a deep dive as I would like to, but this is mostly about the unemployment rate that we currently have in the U.S. right now, because I am hearing a lot, at least where I am, and I imagine where all of you are, that no one wants to work because of these government handouts. I've seen signs saying it. I've had managers that I work with and alongside saying that people just don't work anymore because of these government handouts. And I've really been wanting to explore the topic and just have a discussion about it. So Christy, like first up, like I know you've heard this. Like, have you heard this like locally? Like, is this something you're hearing? Like, with like,
of course, it's repeated over and over and over and over again by the 5 corporations who run our media in this country. Every station says the same thing over and over and over until people just start saying it because that's just what it is. It's so annoying. It's so annoying.
Yeah, it is. It is, but I mean, let's see, what was it back in, we'll say 2018? I'll look real quick. I was going to look it up before. Unemployment rate.
I know that this past month, this country has seen a job growth of plus 500,000 plus in just 1 month. So, I mean, the job growth for the last 5 months has been higher than in the last 40 years. So it's the first time in 40 years that it's been this high. So don't let them lie to you. Do your own research, be your own advocate, because if you don't, you're going to walk around believing this bullshit that they say all day long, every day on all these networks that are run by corporate, you know, and corporate America they have reasons for wanting that to be the narrative. It serves the purpose that they need it to serve. And, you know, when the entire media, except for our beloved independent media, our entire media system is set up by 5 corporations. That's a monopoly on our information. So automatically you should already be checking to see if what you're being fed is the truth, because 500,000 plus jobs in just under 4 weeks is pretty phenomenal, and we're only seeing more growth. It's projected to be more than that in June. So
I have a question, and this is going to sound like a dumb question coming from the topic that I am presenting. That number of job growth that you're giving us, that's just the number of jobs that are created, or the number of jobs that were fulfilled?
That were created, that were fulfilled at the same time, both.
Okay.
A job opening was fulfilled.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for clearing that up.
And many of them were brand new, like had just, this just opened. These are our brand new employees. There were a lot of corporations that did their reopening, a lot of small mom and pops companies that did reopenings because of the pandemic. And so people are going back to work, and it's our welfare state is not picking up the slack. That's the problem, and they don't want to face that.
Our what state not picking
Our
up? The
welfare state, the reason why we are the supposed reason why we supposedly pay taxes.
Yeah.
If you look at the percentage that goes to helping our fellow Americans out, it's laughable. Mr. Bean's excited because Mama is home.
Were you gonna say bullshit and then Mr. Bean like
yeah, and he barked and interrupted.
Out?
Yeah, he takes over all the time.
Mr. Bleep.
Ooh.
I
got junk food. I got a Mighty Kids meal.
Hey, there you go.
I'm so excited.
Awesome. Because actually that fits really well. Did someone go and pick that McDonald's up for you, Christy?
Yes, Miss Stacy.
No. McDonald's likes her so much, Matt, that McDonald's just brings it right over to her.
Right? Now, that might sound like a stupid question, but there's no such thing as a stupid question.
I'm McDonald's. McDonald's brought it.
There you go. Fair
I'm
enough.
wearing red, so you could call me Ronald, I guess.
No,
Ronald?
Whatever you're in.
I'm not into Ronald.
Ronald McStacy.
Or clowns at all.
Hi, Mac. Hi, Nacha. Hi, everybody.
Hi, So, one question that I have is your lobby open?
I do need to start a lobby. Yes.
Huh?
I do need to start a lobby.
A lobby? Not that lobby.
Yeah. What should we start a lobby for?
Is your local McDonald's lobby open?
Right? Probably not.
Probably not.
It is 10:41 p.m. here, so.
Okay. Well, ours has remained closed, and then like a lot in the area has, and like we do see signs, and we do hear from like friends and local people that it's because they don't have enough people to open up their lobby, and whether or not that's true is not really defined by having a sign on the door, right? If you have enough people to like make the sandwiches,
right,
and take orders, then you have enough. Like, I've worked at McDonald's before. I worked at a Subway before, like all by myself, and like I know how much it takes to like keep a lobby open. It really isn't a lot. I mean, it's stressful at times because you have too much to do, but they don't care. They have you work it anyway. That's kind of the point.
absolutely.
Right? If more work needs to be done, they just have you stay late.
Absolutely.
Right? This has always been the thing. So this is what confuses me, is that we keep hearing that there's not enough people to like open the McDonald's lobby, or Burger King or Taco Bell, but one, I have a hard time buying it. And this is just speculation at this point, for this part of the segment, is that like this is just speculation. Like, I think it's bullshit because I've worked at McDonald's, I worked at Arby's, I worked at Subway. Like, they just have you work longer, or like the line takes a little longer. My local Chipotle just opened up recently, and they had like a line out the door, and because they had a line out the door, they didn't just close the doors.
Right.
Right. They actually did a few times not open the lobby because their drive-through orders and their pickup orders like lines were so long that they really couldn't handle opening the lobby. But it's a brand new restaurant, and everyone in my local area wanted it. It's a little bit different. But I mean, you can say that there's a customer base there. If there's a customer base there, then people are going to open the doors to make that money. It's just what they do. Also, it is not with like outside the bounds to say that this might be kind of like certain businesses kind of protesting the unemployment rate, right?
Mhm.
Because they want people to come back to work, so they don't have to raise their wages to make people come back to work with a larger wage, and that's largely what people on the left are saying right now. Is like right now people have leverage because they are making more money, staying at home, mooching off the unemployment rate and the government handouts,
Mhm.
because I mean, if they go to work, they lose that, and they lose money by going to work. So this is a right. This is a problem. I agree that it is a problem, and what should we do to fix this problem? It's
If the problem is that a government is funding $300 a month, and that's what it is. Yes, there are some places where people are getting their unemployment, which is 70% of what they were making, plus the extra $300 a week. There are some of those, and they deserve it. They have a lot riding on being able to not lose everything, you know. And this is our fellow Americans. This is why we have taxes. And I agree with these taxes. I think that it's wonderful that I would never want to live somewhere where we didn't take care of our own minimum.
yeah,
I see this as $300 a week is
or 600
nothing.
places.
Well, there are a few, but that's not the majority. The majority of them are because many states, and I'm talking about red states, they have refused the money. So they're only getting the federal $300. They're not getting the state money because they won't do it. So what you have is many families that are making or many parents who are bringing home $300 a month. Beanie, stop. Or I'm sorry, a week. And if that's more than they would make, that's the problem. That's the problem. Maybe they should make more, and that this wouldn't be a problem. So I'm right with you, Mac. That's exactly what they're doing. They're freaking out because they know that they're going to have to pay more. They're going to have to pay more. You know how many things have, we bought a bag of cherries this week. A bag of cherries was $10. That's insanity. This is good for you. These are things that you should be eating.
Up here in Ohio, they're about it was like $6. I just bought some the other day too.
I'm obsessed with cherries, and they're so good.
They are really good.
I will sit down with a bag and a bowl for the pits and just.
Yeah. So people don't make enough to work 40 hours a week, as we say here, kind of often. We kind of repeat ourselves a little bit, but mostly because the problem hasn't been solved. Nothing changes. People don't make enough off of the minimum wage, like at the federal level, even if you double it, right? If you make $15 an hour in this economy, depending on where you live, but at least in most places in the US, you don't make enough to pay your rent, pay for food, and take care of anyone other than yourself. Like, it really is too much just to take care of yourself in a 1-bedroom apartment or to own a house off of, I said, double the minimum wage.
No,
That's
right.
That's not good. That's poor wealth distribution in the country, to say the least. if you triple it, it's still difficult. I make close to $20 an hour. And if I was the only one working in my household, I couldn't support half the kids in my household. And I would hardly be able to make like rent and everything by myself. Like that would be hard. Luckily, I'm not the only one who has an income in this household. So we get by okay. But we don't have a lot of spare money to save, right? To save like Dave Ramsey would have you
Of
do.
course.
Like
Yeah.
save back so much money. Take so much out of your paycheck. Let's say I was making $15 an hour, living in a place with, we'll say, an $800 rent up here in Ohio. And then just you have to also pay for a car. We'll lowball it, say it's $200 a month. So that's $1,000 just your rent and your car, and then you have to buy food, right? And then you got to pay your bills. That's like your money goes away fast. Should I just go ahead and like do the math for good measure? Okay. Calculator.
I'm like shoveling fries in my face.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
40. Okay, so it's $600 a week. And then times 4, 2,400. And some of that goes to taxes, but we're going to be really generous and say we're not paying taxes right now, okay? Really easy to pay $800 in rent. Then pay $200 for your car. Let's say you don't drive a whole lot and you only spend, I don't know, $35, like one tank worth of gas for like a medium-sized car. So that's $35. That's 30 times 4. That's $140 a month. And Christy, how much do you spend on groceries a week for you, Stacy, and Izzy? How much do you think that would be? And I'm trying to stall a little bit so you have time to chew your food. Hi, Izzy.
Izzy and boyfriend spend between 50 and 70 a week.
50 and 70 a week. Okay. So is that, would you say same for you? All right. So we'll just say that's 130. We'll lowball just a little bit. And that's a week, right?
Sweet.
So,
I got the flower from my flower.
30.
Super sweetheart. Yeah, when the kids were little, we spent more on food, obviously. 5 small meals a day is pretty much what little ones do. I never stuck with the, 3 big meals, although we did have dinner. The rest of the meals were, when they woke up, they weren't big eaters right away. They wanted to be awake for a little while, a lot like me. So we just follow the, you eat when you're hungry, and we have dinner every night. And I don't know, I like that I did that.
Yeah. No,
not so structured, and we had lunch every day at the same time, and breakfast was every day before school, and if you didn't eat it, you're going to be hungry. And I that's the way it is when you're in school. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So summers where it's not like that. It doesn't have to be like that because you're not in school today. Excuse me. This one crazy.
All right. So right now we're down to 740 with just food, car, rent.
Our
gas.
electric bill is $200 a month.
I was gonna guess around $200 for an electric. We'll just do $250 a month.
Yeah, and then our water is like $75 every month.
Gas and electric, and then how much for water? Probably around
75 we pay
Okay.
every month.
55. That's probably about. That really varies, like depending on.
It
on where
does.
you
When we lived in a
Okay.
house, it was like $200 a month. When we
Yeah.
live, now we live in an apartment, it's like $75. So, yeah.
So we'll just subtract just to kind of average out just 100. So that's 390 is
Mhm.
what you have left. And
The kids have
car
things at
insurance.
school that you have to
Car
pay for.
insurance.
Car insurance, yeah.
How much is car insurance nowadays? Oops.
Yeah, about 175 to 250 a month.
Is it?
You know, you have a brand new car here in Florida, you have to by law have full coverage. It's not even an option. If your car is not paid off, if it's a used car and you're paying for it, if your car is not paid off, you're paying full insurance on it. That's just the way it is in the state. And so, you know, if you have you want a Mustang or a brand new Chevy Caribou or whatever it's called.
Well, most people can't.
It's like
can't
$400,
afford-
$500 a month here for a car insurance if you have a brand new car.
Well, most people can't afford a brand new car, so I'm not going to do the numbers for that. I'm going to kind of lower it, maybe for like 125
So I
if you
wish.
have a couple tickets.
Not like that for me, for Stacy, or for Isabel. Like two.
You drive. What's your record like? No, hold on. Don't answer that.
Nothing wrong with it. It's just a very expensive state to be insured in.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and just round it out.
And it's a no fault state as well.
Okay. If it's-
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So we got car insurance. So look, there's 240 left. That's not including internet or cable or anything like that. This is just like the bare necessities. Like you have to have car insurance, you have to have food, you have to like pay your
You have to have soap,
basic,
dish soap,
right?
you know, yeah, paper towels,
Yeah,
toilet
there's
paper.
stuff like that too. But let's not pick at it too much, right? $240 after all of your bare necessities. Let's say you are the only person that you have to take care of. That's not a lot left over for you to do things. That is definitely something, though. You can go out to eat a couple times. You can go do something during the week, and this is a half decent wage, right? You can't really do a lot if you have anyone else you're taking care of, though, right? And this is, we just did kind of count this for 4 people, right? With the food at least. So if that's the case, we're going to subtract one more car payment, because most families have to have at least 2 cars, right? So we'll subtract one more. Should this one be about the same?
Yeah, I agree.
200. All right, and that leaves $40.
Right.
Right, and if you need to give your kids lunch money,
There you go. Done.
yep. Or if you have to pay even more on your car insurance, then you're already in the negative. Now, something else that I wanted to mention tonight was overdraft fees. If you make a small mistake, you can get $35 overdraft fee, and that stuff is criminal. Luckily,
Yeah,
we
they make billions every year. Billion. It's a billion-dollar industry.
Yes, it's quite insane, and there's.
Oh, you don't have enough money? You owe us $35.
Yeah, and I found out today. I'm not sure if you watched the same Rising thing I did with Ryan Grimm covering this topic.
No, I didn't.
Okay, it was actually quite good. There's an algorithm now, because when you overdraft, this is really interesting. Like let's say you have $40 left in your account, and you you go get a coffee. We'll say it's a $5 coffee. And then you go to the store and you buy a few groceries. You only spend like $15, right? So boom, boom. There's 20. And then you go get $20. I'm sorry, you go get $25 in gasoline to go put in your car for the week. And that brings you over. That puts you over the limit, right? Or let's say even 35 to make this make a little more sense. And also go with the model that we just went with, $35 for gas a week. You put that in. So what the algorithm will do, since you made all those charges the same day, is that when it finally applies those charges, it'll do the $35 first, and then the $10 or what, yeah, $15 for groceries that you got. So bam, there's your overdraft fee. And then that coffee that you only spent $5 on, which you actually paid for first, they'll apply that last. So then boom, you get a second $35 overdraft fee. That's what the algorithm will do. And many of the banks that apply the overdraft fee. So it makes sure that it organizes it right so they get the most bang for their buck. And it screws you over, whether it was an accident or you're like, well, this will only cost me one overdraft fee, or maybe I have a grace period. And they've done this to a lot of people when they had overdraft protection, but they got rid of overdraft protection, but they didn't actually grandfather you in. Oh, well, now you can't re-enter because we did get rid of it. It's quite disgusting. And that's just what this $40 reminded me of. I didn't think I'd get so close to 35 and want to talk about it now, but felt like a good time to bring it up. That said, $40 extra a week, you can't save on that. If it goes to lunch money, it has to go to lunch money. If you want to do anything outside of the home that costs money, let's say you have 2 kids and you and your significant other want to go to the swimming pool. There's half your money there. Maybe you want to go for ice cream. Hold on, I can't go for ice cream because this is only Tuesday and I got to make it till Friday. And we just took them swimming. We need to make this last $20 last through Friday. Like, it really limits what you can do. You can't save anything. Again, like Dave Ramsey or anyone, any financial guru would have you save. Any of that common sense stuff. And one thing that I was always told as I was starting to make more money in the job that I'm at now is when you get a raise, put that new amount that you would be making into like your savings account. Like, put that much more into your savings account. It'll help you accrue money. It'll go into your retirement fund. You accrue interest. Well, that's
Or
great.
emergency, you'll be more prepared for an emergency because you
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, because before the pandemic, the average citizen couldn't take a $400 emergency because they only have $40 extra a week, right?
Now it's worse.
Yeah, well, now it's kind of worse unless you saved up a bunch from all this extra money you're making because you were smart and didn't go back to work. But it's not feasible to tell low-income people who work paycheck to paycheck, making twice the minimum wage and not paying taxes
Mm-hmm.
in our model at all.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have
It's
that
not
extra 40 at
feasible
all.
for you to tell them they need to spend more responsibly or they need to save because they can't save. That's what working paycheck to paycheck means, is like you don't have any extra money, right? If your car if you don't do anything extra and you do have two vehicles that you have to take care of and pay insurance on, let's just say that. If you have to change the brakes on one of those vehicles every 6 months, there's all of your extra $40 that you've saved every 6 months. It's just gone. Right? And I hope you don't have to change the rotors. Because now you have to use that credit card, which you'll never be able to pay off because you only have $40 extra a week. And you don't have enough to save back. Like it's just not feasible. Like we're fighting for this $15 minimum wage thing, but I like to continuously bring up that if wages have kept up with like inflation and
$33.74. That just came out this week.
I
If it
think
had
that's
kept up
not
with
just for inflation, but if it had kept up with CEO like earnings as well, right? Was that one
yeah, it was very comprehensive. It was sticking, like if we had stuck with how things had been moving when we have the greatest growth
and inflation?
Yes. So yes. Oh my gosh! And now my daughter just handed me. Look at this fresh sourdough. Oh my gosh! Oh, it's
wow.
I do love bread, especially like freshly baked. Oh.
Oh yeah, that's the best. But yeah, so I guess that's not everything I want to talk about. This was actually like just a small piece, and I said I wasn't going to do a deep dive, and this isn't a deep dive. This is just a basic example of how difficult it is to live paycheck to paycheck. So when you're going to give someone more money to stay home
with their family.
Yeah, with their family. Let's say you do make that $600 a week. That's what you make with a $15 minimum wage. Taxes not coming out. Right? That's how much you make. And you get to stay home with your family, or you get to go see your friends. Like, why do we work? So we get money and get stuff and are able to do what we want with our free time, because that's what we like. That's how you earn time. Leisure time in this capitalist system is to play the game right and win and gain that time as money, right? Like that's how you play the game. And people are just playing the game the best way they can right now. You can't blame them, and you can't blame them because not because they're lazy. This is something that's gone on for years. I'm sure everyone has a friend who you hate a little bit because they've decided, well, if I just get WIC benefits and I get unemployment, then I can stay home and watch the kids and I don't have to work. Because if I go to work and then I have to pay for a babysitter, then it's not,
you're breaking even.
I'm just breaking even, or I'm losing money. It just doesn't make sense for me to go to work. Just my husband can do it, or my wife can do it. She makes more than me anyways. Right? It doesn't make sense for both people to work when you have kids. That's not the fault of those people who make that decision, who do the math and see it's not worth it. Like, you can give them like as much of a condescending tone when you mock them, as I did, as you want, but it doesn't change the fact that they're kind of crunching numbers and they're like, oh yeah, this makes more sense. It makes more sense. Like, we want to be reasonable, right? We try to be reasonable creatures, and we try to be reasonable on the show. That's a reasonable thing. I want to spend more time at home. I want to spend more time playing a video game. I mean, get paid to like sit at home and do that and not go to work. Why not do it? Right? Now, is it because of the government handouts? Well, yes. Right? Yes. Also, no.
Haven't they paid into the system their entire life? Like, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So it's not just for bailing out big corporations, it's for individual people. Look at that. I'm okay with it. I want more of our tax money to go to our fellow Americans. I think that that's wonderful. I don't want it to go to foreign countries. I don't want $8 million a day to go to Israel. They have healthcare for everyone. They have universal education. They have these things. We don't have them.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
If this was such an issue, like our unemployment rate being what, like 8.5 or something like that. Hold on, let me look real quick. 8.3.
Mhm.
That's our current unemployment rate. Guess what Canada's is right now? Take a guess.
12.
8.2.
Good.
Why is that funny? Let me tell you why it's funny. Because Canada gave people, was it $1,000 or $2,000
Mm.
during the pandemic?
I couldn't tell you, honestly.
Well, it doesn't matter. They gave people, and I'll tell you why it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
$1,000 or $2,000. Big difference. That doesn't matter because their unemployment rate is 0.1% better than ours in the U.S. And they gave $1,000 or $2,000 to all of their citizens a month to stay home. A month. That's more than what the U.S. got. And they're doing that. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if it's because of how much money people are getting,
We're talking about the least among us, the people who make the least among us needing help, and help them. I just, it really stresses me out that stresses people out.
There's a different thing here that people need to focus on. And it's if the government can pay you enough money to stay home instead of go to work, then the workforce, employers, aren't paying enough people to come to work.
I agree.
Like, that can be refuted, that can be debated, but I think, like, that's not controversial to say. That's just a perspective thing, right? And we already know that you don't make enough money working a 40-hour-a-week job to make ends meet. Now, the last point that I want to tie to this is, if you're a Republican and you're watching this, and I hope some of you can share this with your Republican friends. Conservatives say that what's the phrase? They're like the party of, like, the family, right? They want
family values.
Family values.
Sorry. Yeah. Hypocrisy is just so deep on that one. I can't.
It is. Now, I want to make the point that this argument I'm making, this should be a Republican argument. This should be a right-wing thing, right? Because you want family values. You can't have family values if one person can't go work a full-time job 40 hours a week and come home and have the father present in the home like you want and be an actual influence instead of just grumpy and exhausted and has to go the next day. No, like, a father needs to be present in his kids' lives to be the fatherly figure that you want them to be.
Right. And have his own personal time. Like, that's important too. Like, he has his own hobbies and his own, things that he wants to do to change the community he's in. Any action that he wants to get involved with. You got to have time for those things. If you're too exhausted, you can't be in a movement. I mean, hence the whole reason for the setup that we're in.
You can't go to a
Protest.
football game, a baseball game, an
Yeah.
anything game if you don't
Mhm.
have more than that $40 extra a week, right?
Right.
We know that, and a lot of people do make more than that, and good for you if you do, especially if you're in
I
like
agree.
a union that helps you make more. That's great. We need all the jobs to be paying more than double the minimum wage that we currently have, because it's really just not enough. Everyone needs to be able to make ends meet with 40 hours a week, no
Right.
overtime, so they can do their duties as a
And
parent.
France, you guys, is trying 4-day work week right now.
A 4-day work, yeah.
They're trying a 4-day work week. Fridays are not a work day anymore.
I'm jealous.
Right.
That's, even if you're not a family person, we want young people to be more part of a community, right? Get in touch with like local politics, go do community
Yeah, get
service,
involved.
or help with the school board, or do something, right? But no one can do that if they don't make enough money to be home, enough to care about themselves, their families, and then further out, right? Like you don't get family values if you don't have the time to appreciate like that family. And thank you, Achilles.
So cute.
I feel like this really just should be a Republican argument. This shouldn't just have to be like a leftist argument. Like, from that value of family values, this should be a right wing argument. Like,
Yeah.
we need to make more. We want families to stay together, and we want that nuclear family to, like, be a thing. And you can't have that with the economy that we have currently. It's maddening. This is one of the things that like drive me nuts the most, is that Republicans don't fight more for higher wages
It's
for the
bananas.
lowest among us,
NAF.
for like
I agree.
McDonald's workers. If you want to get ahead, and the minimum wage should be $20 or $30, like, to really like make ends meet, from like conflating it with the 70s,
Mhm.
then you work more. You work overtime. Baseline should be you make it.
I agree.
Baseline should be you fucking make it. And unemployment should be you make it. Just barely. Right? If you can't work and you get unemployment, and you can't work, there's other things you can get on top of unemployment, so you can try to stay ahead and save a little bit in case something goes wrong, like a right-wing fascist party gets control of the government and takes away all of your benefits. Oh, thank goodness I stayed for the last 15 years, right? Other benefits you can get on top of that. But like, unemployment and minimum wage should just make sure everyone lives a happy, healthy life. That should be baseline, and the greatest country
I agree.
in the world, right? Again, should be a right-wing argument. If you want to get ahead, go do something. Like, go make something of it. Like, go work extra hours, get a second job, have your spouse work. Like,
And in our
Yeah.
chat, one of our a wonderful weekly guest in our chat, RB, he makes a good point that he's apologized to his sons for working so much when they were young, and you can't get that time back. It's when it's gone, it's gone. And most parents in this country, especially in the lower caste classes and the working classes, have children in their 20s. And when you have children in your 20s, not everyone, but in general, you're going to just be a few steps, behind your friends who wait until they're in their 30s. It just is. And there's nothing wrong with having kids early. I had so much energy, I couldn't do it now. There's no way I could do what I did in my 20s, just playing with them, building these just elaborate, just having a blast being a mom. And I wouldn't be able to keep up now. There's no way. And RB's right. We spend so much time busting ass, and then you're tired when you get home. Kids are like, mommy, mommy, and like, what? Hi. They just want that like attention. And when you wake up at home and you spent the day before having a blast and learning with your kids, you just feel that you're where you're supposed to be, and you don't get those days in this country for much of the working class. And it's very unfortunate. And this is everywhere in the world, but we're strictly talking about the U.S. economy and U.S. history tonight. So, yeah.
So I think I've ranted enough. I don't want to be on this
Okay.
this little this like circular argument I'm starting to make.
Well,
but it's important. There's so much more to dive into on this.
well, your next topic is salty, so I'm excited about it.
It is. I don't even remember everything I wanted to say on that at this point. I'm just, oh, damn it. I closed that one too early. I wanted to give you guys a nice little a fun thing. Give me just a second. I'll pull it back up.
One.
Damn it.
60 to 100 hours
Okay.
a week RV.
All right. This is going to take me at least 2 more minutes. I'm sorry. To just make my point of the wealth distribution part of this argument is that I'm not necessarily sure if I'm for a meritocracy, right? Like you can work, like you earn your money by like how hard you work, like depending on what you classify work as and how hard you can work, that could be unfair. But how much does Jeff Bezos make?
Right. And what
A day?
Every day? An hour?
Think before I give you the answer. And I know, Christy, you're probably ballparking your guess here. Think, how hard can I work in a day?
What? He makes over $1 million a minute. So.
No, he doesn't. That's not true. I guess depending on if it's an 8-hour workday or 24-hour workday.
Right.
It doesn't say. Okay. Depends on how you calculate it. But a minute, it's $140,353. A day, it's 321 million.
Mm.
He makes 321 million per day. He makes more than the stimulus check you got in the mail a second.
Mm.
That's $3,715 a second. And for some reason, our country is freaking out about a bunch of poor people and middle class people getting too much on unemployment. Like, if we were as outraged about how much Jeff Bezos makes for not doing anything, because he doesn't do something every second.
No.
Not even every minute, I think. Unless he's like shitting golden turds.
No.
And even then, he has to like, I don't know if we should pay him for the labor when we're already buying his golden turds.
Yeah.
There's something to be said. I'll end it with this instead of a rant. There's just something to be said about how we distribute wealth in this country. That is all. Let's move on.
All right,
Okay.
let's talk about Marjorie.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, goodness. That's just, I can't even, it's a parody. It's a parody, but she's for real. It's the
5
darndest
hours ago, 5 hours ago on Twitter, through a Chinese-made bioweapon, America and the world came to a halt because it was America first. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm not done. But she put a period after halt and then put a capital B for butt. That ass. But it is the democratic socialist policies that has caused the derailment of our strong economic engine and will prevent the return. In less than 5 months. Hashtag Atlas Shrugged. Ugh. All right. One, because America totally experienced the COVID first. America and the world came to a halt. No, like, why do you have to word it like that? It's just annoying. Two, but is not how you start a sentence. I know I'm picking at things. I know she is not super
No, she doesn't grammar.
grammarified.
No, she doesn't grammar.
No.
Grammar's not her. She doesn't math. She doesn't
know
grammar.
grammarified.
She doesn't history. She doesn't science. That's for the learning nerds, the nerds that are about learning stuff. That's
And
about
point
that.
point four here. But it is the democratic socialist policies that has caused the derailment of our, do you remember the term? Strong economic engine, and will prevent the return. Because we have a strong economic engine in this country that works so well. And that helps everyone in our country because it's the best country in the world.
Yeah, you're lying to your teeth.
Through my teeth, is the only way not alone.
You have a tell. A very big one.
Damn. I wish she had more tells. So hold on. No, I'm gonna get back to that. Do you have anything to say on that? On just that one tweet?
I mean, I would hope that anybody that is, watching this is just knows that you don't take anything she says seriously. I would hope that you would just know that ahead of time. And I think that it is important that people who hold beliefs as she does and doesn't understand how to fact check them should never be allowed to have that much power. It should never be elected. It's terrifying that means that there are enough of the electorate who are okay with someone so ignorant being in leadership, and it's not okay. And you don't have to know everything. You have to be willing to learn and willing to understand it and willing to admit that you are wrong and that your beliefs were wrong, because she's wrong on everything. And it's not just like a little bit. I mean, Jewish laser beams, come on, guys. I don't understand why anyone would take her seriously. I really hope she gets booted out and just kind of fades into oblivion, how Trump is kind of fading right now. It's bananas that there's a couple of them in Congress that believe these crazy banana conspiracies about our government, and they think that regulations are the end all be all to the corporations should have the rights of people, and that's where we're at. Yeah.
And look though, broken clock is right twice a day, as long as it still has arms and numbers. But some broken clocks don't. So I wouldn't say she's right necessarily twice every day, but every now and then, she says something.
I think it's a failure of our education system. It's a failure. We failed if we're having people elected into, you know, our lawmakers who are elected by the people are people like her. That's a failure. That's a failure to inform. That's a failure to educate. We do not have an informed electorate in areas where people like her are being elected. It's just, it cannot be so. Or
Well,
we live in banana world. Like, I don't.
so I want to push back on that a little bit here, because this is actually a large part of the reason why I wanted to have this as a topic tonight, because I disagree. I don't disagree with the fact that this is a failure on our education system, because it is in large part a failure of our education system that we get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like Ben Shapiro.
Mm. Yeah, but he went to private school.
That's
Out of our.
still education. It's still
It is, but it's private. They paid for it. They paid for that indoctrination. You got it.
No, other people pay for his indoctrination.
Yeah, they sure did. And it worked wonderfully.
He's getting paid for it.
And now he's paid for his indoctrination.
So when you have an uninformed or disinformed, we'll even say misinformed, we'll say that, electorate, you can get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Because these people feel like she is representing things that they believe. Maybe not all of it, maybe all of it from a plethora of people, right? But you get that with a misinformed electorate. And that, I'm going to argue, is not necessarily a good thing, but it is a thing. And it is a thing that needs to happen when we have an education system and an economic system like we do, and empire system like we do, that the military has so much power, and bigwigs, big corporations and health insurance companies have so much power to really just kind of warp how we look at the world.
Right.
You get distrust, and it comes out in different forms. And you get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I have said in the past, and I hope it's not too controversial, because I hope that people listening understand what I'm trying to say. We need to have people in Congress like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I support her being in Congress because you need to see what people agree with in Congress. Like, they're supposed to represent us.
Yeah.
And she
That means
represents
there's people, she represents the people who believe those things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I align more with AOC. People know that, right?
Yeah.
I'm more represented
Christy,
by her than most people in Congress. Until
Nina Turner, though, is my favorite. She's
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
yes.
State's
Nina.
about to put someone up really
I
good.
would vote for Nina Turner for president yesterday.
No, yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
She hasn't let me down yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
On anything. She's like, sometimes she's pulled me to the left.
That's good.
I just love her. I love her bravery, and that's what we need to see. And I think because of people like, we get the opposite. Here's just the honesty. Nina, let me just tell you how it is and what we want to see. And how we can get there, and these are the steps, and let's make it happen. And I really like that. It's almost like, okay, from reality,
Yeah.
back to earth. Let's handle it.
One of the other things that Congresswoman Greene has said, though, she conflated mask wearing with the Jewish star that the Nazis made the Jews wear,
Mm.
which is disgusting
It's despicable. Yeah.
in the way it is disgustingly wrong, misunderstood. Like she's just so disgustingly uninformed on the topic.
Well, she still thinks that Hitler was a socialist. So
yeah.
there- I
Now,
don't know what.
yeah. Yes. We need her
Oh, and very left.
because she represents
Yeah.
something that a lot of people think. And I hate that. I want it to go away. But democracy dies in darkness, right?
Yeah.
To use someone else's
Oh, you've
slogan.
got great
It does.
points there. I love that you
Bad
pushed back on
ideas,
that.
grow in the dark, and it's really sad. I continue to say that I support free speech, even to the point that I want people in the KKK in Congress, so we know that they still exist and people can stop ignoring it because it fucking exists, and we need to not fucking ignore it because it grows when we aren't looking. And I don't want it to grow. I want the sunlight to be like a disinfectant.
Right.
That's what I want. That's what I hope for. But maybe that won't work out. It is still my view, though, still, that we need a representative democracy. That's what we want. If we don't have one, it is a slippery slope from why I pushed back on at Christy at all. Like,
No, I
saying
like
that
it.
Marjorie
It's different perspective that I wasn't even,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did that.
because
Oh,
if we don't have a democracy, what do we have? Right?
no, you're
We
right.
say these people don't deserve to vote. These people aren't smart enough to vote.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that.
And it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that every single person should vote. You should just get a ballot in the mail. It should have a little thing where you peel back, you put your thumb on it, and then you put your thumbprint on it, and you close it. Like, it's done. That's you. It's you. That's it. And you send it back, and that's it. So simple.
Yeah.
That way we have 100% participation of the people who would even like to vote or would, think about voting. It's already there. It's in your hand. All you have to do, it's paid for. You just send it back. I think that democracy should be taken seriously. I don't think that it should be limited because you don't like the ideas of someone else. And I don't like her ideas.
No.
I don't at all. At all.
They're
I don't want her to disappear. Like, I don't want anything bad like fall on her or her family. That she's also a fellow American. She just happens to be wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong.
That's something I wanted to say, and in a nutshell kind of way, is Marjorie Taylor Greene is as American as I am.
Yeah.
American as Christy is. And
Uh-huh.
that's a little disgusting. Yeah. But you know what?
But so is the KKK.
Yeah.
And so is the Black Panthers.
Super duper all American. 100%.
I love that you said that, because that is a line in the story I'm going to tell here in a little bit. The Stonewall, because the next story we're going to talk about is the Stonewall Uprising. How American this story is. You guys, I have a fire under my ass for the story from just spending a week in those 4 days at the Stonewall Uprising. So I don't know if you want to carry on and get gay up in here.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's about time to get gay up in here. Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's get real gay.
All right. Let's get
Everyone.
gay up in here.
All right. I like it. You guys. Right. Okay. So I knew about Stonewall. I've known about Stonewall. I know about a lot of the big names of people who, made a big difference, who were there at the beginning, the street kids who are the unsung heroes. I've known all of that, but I never spent a week just there. And I don't know. It's such an American story. And, it takes a few decades for history to be written. And it's that time that we chronicle all of these, and put them in education books, because I learned so much this week, and many kids will learn that they're not alone by going over this. I couldn't think of a more positive reason to teach something than to teach a piece of history that actually happened, that would also inform many children that they're not alone. Those are the best reasons ever. So finally saying no is the reason why this happened. The night the police ran from us is what one of the people who were there called this night. And I like that. I think that it really should be called that, but it is called the Stonewall Uprising. Before Stonewall, there was no such thing as coming out. There was only in. That was it. That was it. Many kids and teens and 20-year-olds went through shock therapy because they were gay. Lobotomies even because they were gay. That means their families put them into an institution because they were gay. Okay, parents out there, stay out of your children's sex life. That's nothing to do with you. Okay, that's gross. It's nothing to do with you. That being said, this was happening and been happening. Raids on gay nightclubs happened regularly. I mean, all the time. And so it was illegal to be gay. The laws on the books said it was illegal. Sodomy was illegal. And so these were things that you would go to jail for. And they would raid these clubs all the time, especially we're talking about this area of New York, Greenwich Village. The mafia, you guys, the mob, the real like Italian mob, saw an inn where there were, because it was illegal to be gay, people would pay to hang out in an area where they could be gay, or at least could have gay sex. So these clubs would open up. And this particular club, the mafia owned the jukeboxes in them. And these clubs, the mafia owned ones. They owned the cigarette machines in them. Most of the liquor was from truck hijackings. I'm not kidding. Like, it is this crazy stories. So it was 100% profit for the mob. And they would water down the drinks. They called it mafia house beer. I don't even want to know what's in mafia house beer. They would charge twice as much as the closest tavern.
It's beer with a little bit of blood. And,
I'm sure.
And some bullets soak in it. That's exactly.
Yeah, maybe a little pee.
Usually not.
I would
Only
hope
for the
not,
non-members.
probably.
Only for the non-members.
Or something else. But, Ugh. The Stonewall never acquired their liquor license, you guys. So they were raided by the cops regularly. They had cops on their payroll, the mob in this area. There was so much corruption, obviously. Much of the corruption would have to do with the cops on the payroll, and the mob and the cops would be in cahoots. And so a raid would have to be done. So the cops would be paid off to do it on a weeknight when no big names of the mafia would be there. The bartender, everybody would get arrested. They would get their arrests, so they'd get their notches that they needed, and the cops would get paid. The cops were also known for walking into the club, turning all the lights on, and going to the wealthiest men that were in there and opening their wallets and taking out all their money and letting them leave, and then arresting the street kids because they're the poorest and can't do anything about it. So, they would do the most humiliating things when they'd arrest these street kids because they were gay, strip them down naked, turn the hose on them, put it right on their balls, like just horrible, dehumanizing things. You can only imagine that this anger is growing and growing, and they're getting raided all the time, and they're being chased away by the cops all the time. New York's not an easy place to live, and it's either freezing or hot. So it was a very rich and cultural, it was like a subculture inside a subculture who was about up to their necks with it, and they were about over it. The Stonewall calls itself a bottle club, meaning that people would bring the bottles that they wanted to drink with them, hand them to the club, and or pay membership, which was $1. The regular raids, I told you they would come not only on the weekdays where no big names and the mob would be there, but the storerooms would be empty of all the drugs and all the stolen liquor. So like, they didn't even get in trouble for the crimes that they did commit. The many crimes they committed, they didn't get in trouble for. Until the cops raid on their own without the mob's permission one night, June 28th, 1969. This raid's different though. People weren't going to go to jail. There were many first witness accounts of cops putting this gay girl into the cop car and her getting out the other side, just like filling up paddy wagons, and it being so chaotic with all these transgender women doing kick lines, da, da, and singing, and so it was just pandemonium. It was bananas. So they'd fill up paddy wagons and then go back in and bring out, and this truck, this paddy wagon's empty now. So it was just, they couldn't keep up. And there were 75 to 80 people who were getting raided, and only 6 or 7 cops. Well, then more people start showing up, and like, what's going on over here? And then it's a couple hundred, and then a few hundred, and the crowd keeps growing. So much energy, and pennies start flowing. Pennies are being thrown at these 6 cops, handfuls of them, and they're calling them coppas. A penny is a copper, and so these cops are worth a penny. And it was like a little parody protest. And the cop says it's getting a little crazy. We should probably go inside. They're outnumbered now to nearly 1,000 to 7 at this point. People are catcalling the cops and grabbing the cops' asses and the fronts, which, I don't agree with. However, at the time, it's history. I can't, I wouldn't do that to anyone. But I also, these kids have been through so much from these cops. I can imagine they only wanted to get some sort of revenge. I can only imagine. They just wouldn't leave them alone, and the way they humiliated them and dehumanized them every time they would arrest them. And the mob would just tell them, you have to sleep with this old guy, and then take the money. It was just it was a hot mess, the corruption that was going on there, and just this part of American history. I'm glad, the city of New York came out and said that they're sorry, that they apologize for, and they name the things and they go through them. And I think that's so important. I love that they did that. The cops retreat into Stonewall now. And now the cops are in there, plainclothes cops. They're holed up in the Stonewall, scared shitless, with the crew of the bar, the people who work there. The cops pile furniture in front of the doors. There were 2 double doors, and one opened first and then the other one opened. So they would open like this to come in. Well, if you could get something heavy in front of the one, it would stop the other one from opening. So they put the jukebox and a few other things in front of the door, and outside a fire starts on the side of the building the cops are in. Cops are barricaded inside, and they're afraid, and the crowd is elated and singing. And one of the cops even remembers looking through one of the holes in the wall, because it was a piece of shit building, looking through one of the holes in the wall and going, "You'll never believe what I'm seeing," because people were dancing and singing because they have the cops in there for the first time ever. The cops can't do anything. They won this battle. They didn't win the fight, but they won this battle. The cops at this time, there's like almost several thousand people outside, and they're surrounding the entire block. There's so many people, and their allies, which are so important to us, by the way, everyone. If you're an ally, thank you. Cops have raised their guns with their backs to the back of the Stonewall, ready, just ready, because people are pounding on this door and the fire burning. And I mean, I'm sure they were terrified. And wouldn't want, I'm glad that they didn't get hurt. I'm super glad that they weren't killed, because that's not what it's about. It was about making them just feel just a little fucking bit of the humiliation and anger and disgusting way they've made people feel for so long. And they, you know what? Good. I'm glad they were scared. I'm glad that people, made it out, though. That one of the cops tells a couple of the bartenders that were working in there to go try to find a way out. And they do. They find an air conditioner in the wall and they push it out and they make it out to this little tiny window. Many police cars start to show up and gain control of the crowd, or so they think. The crowd just goes around the block, and as they're going around the block, people are joining the crowd, and it goes around and comes up the backside of these cops. So now there's, over 2,000 people, and yeah, there's a few handfuls of cops, but no. So they start backing up, and this circle goes around this block for hours. They are just battling, trying to we need more cops, we need backup. Oh my gosh, National Guard, or it wasn't the National Guard, but it's a riot segment of the police show up with, their guards, their whatever they're called. I can't remember right now.
The riot shields.
The riot shields, yes, the riot shields. And people in the protest had brought lighter fluid and lighters, and they sprayed the shields with lighter fluid and set them on fire. And that's in it. Nobody got hurt. And I don't agree with that at all. That's beyond the line. There was no containing this. This was not going to go away. People were upset. People were over it. They had been arrested so many times that, if the record is done, they have nothing left to lose. So they're going to make a stand. And this is all going on while civil rights is happening. While these major milestones in our country have just happened. And it's still illegal to be gay. Well, kick lines and drag queens with their lovers. Like I said, pandemonium inside the StoneWall, this little bottle club. It was completely smashed up. I mean, the jukebox smashed into pieces. The cigarette machine had been peeled apart and all of its contents emptied. I'm sure. All through the night, and even as the sun comes up, the cops realize they've lost this battle. Over 5,000 leaflets go out about how the mob and the cops are being corrupted, and the whole story of them from the gay point of view of these clubs, of why the mob got involved. Well, it's illegal to be gay, so if you come to our illegal clubs and pay these crazy prices, well, you can be gay in here. Yeah, we might get raided sometimes, but at least it's a place where you can go. No one else would touch it. The mob was like, I have money, I don't care. So those 5,000 leaflets, we didn't have the internet. We had people that would print something up and pass it out. The community wants the mob and cop relationship ended and gay to be okay. And that's pretty much what this leaflet said, to sum everything up. The most unlikely supporters were starting to show up to help this uprising. The Black Panthers show up. I mean, y'all still fighting the cops? Because we're here. They're ready to go during these 4 days. It's just crazy the amount of, thousands and thousands of people were coming. People were calling their cousins in Oklahoma and Nevada and California, and people were coming. They were uprising. Tactical cops showed up as well. And that always ends with bodies on sidewalks, and there were bodies on sidewalks. Cops used tear gas a chemical weapon on our own people on the streets of New York. And Americans in general don't like that shit, okay? So protest gets bigger. Of course it does. You just used the chemical weapon on our own people. Of course it's gonna get bigger. And that's what happened in Standing Rock. So over this past week, I've asked myself, and I'm a humanist. I'm okay with that. I identify with that. I agree with the humanist viewpoint. But I've asked myself this week, is there a place for violence? And yikes, I'm still working on my feelings on this question. And I will get back to you guys on that. I just, maybe it's because I'm gay myself. I don't, but I feel the feelings, the outrage of what would happen if I was pushed up against the wall and told to strip and humiliated over and over because I was gay. It would be hard not to, I mean, I wouldn't want to kill them or anything, but to just like, here's a little taste of your own medicine, you asshole. It would be hard to be better than that. I mean, it would be very hard to be better than that. I would hope that I would be. But I gotta say, knowing that none of them wanted, none of the main, street kids wanted anyone dead. There were a few people, you brought lighter fluid and a lighter, you wanted to do something to someone. Don't bring those things to a protest, people. That's not cool. All of this and still not one TV news camera. Not one TV news camera. So this is all night long, this huge uprising, cops versus civilians, and not one news camera. I think that's kind of says everything right there. And that's so American as well. The protest is energized and gets organized, votes as a community, votes to have a march for gay rights, a march for the gay rights movement that they started that night. And they came with what we now call the Gay Pride March, what we still celebrate to this day, although it's been, kind of co-opted. The protesters left Christopher Street and hoped to get to Central Park when they did this march for the very first time, which was not even 2 weeks later. They didn't believe that they'd make it to Central Park, and they called it their trial run. But as they crossed the blocks up 6th Avenue, the march kept growing at every intersection. Wherever people were, they were just waiting for the march to get in with the march. There were thousands of people showing up for the rights of their gay friends and family members, our allies. They said no collectively. We are all treated equal collectively, and that's so important to have allies. It just is. It's so important. StoneWall lives in me, and StoneWall lives in you. It is so very American. What an American story. It just is. The whole thing is just like summing up America. We owe a lot, to that particular 4 days in American history. In June, why we have Pride Month, and what these street kids went through and decided they had nothing left to lose. And so they fought for. Because of that, lots of legislation. I mean, this is the time where legislation was flying to the left, and we were getting all these freedoms, one after another. We were knocking stupid laws down about sodomy, and who cares what people do in their bedroom? Get you're pervert, like leave them alone. What a blessing to be able to spend my week just learning about this particular protest, this battle for rights, and that I personally get to enjoy rights because of these 4 days in New York. And I don't know, I learned a lot this week. I have more. It just made me realize there's more battles. There's so many battles or massacres or lynchings that we still don't even talk about. And I love sitting down to just actually learn what happened and what I can learn from it. But asking myself that question, does violence have a place? before doing this story, I would have said no. But if we're not willing to get arrested, then nothing is going to change.
I think if we want to be reasonable in any situation, we need to ask ourselves if we want to justify a belief or hold a position, we need to have a reason for that belief or holding a position. And if you want to say that you're against violence, you should try to answer the question, what would merit violence? Because surely something in this world merits violence. Like, you can go to an extreme, right? Find an extreme. And I think the answer is going to be a little different for everyone. But from that extreme position, you can slowly lessen it and find out where you draw the line. And that takes time.
Right.
It's not as simple as like, hey, if I sit
Right.
down.
Well, I'm not okay with lighter fluid and like, no. Self-defense, yes. I love that once the cops backed up in there, that they started doing kick lines and dancing because you won. That's the winning point. That's where you stop. That's
Right.
The battle is won, on to the next one. You know, no violence needs to happen. However, it is violence still backing them up into that room. That is still an act of violence. That is what I'm talking about. That I'm like, yeah, I can't help but be honest and say, as I'm reading and fact checking this part of the story, I can't say that I wasn't like, good.
Yeah. So I mean, there's different ways to look at it. We're humanists, so we tend to veer on the side of nonviolence is always the answer.
Yeah.
And I think personally, it is usually the answer.
Yeah, it's really broadened my horizons, definitely.
Because
there is a time and place, not for setting people on fire or shooting people or killing people. Not that. That is not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But you know, the act of throwing pennies at the cops, and I wouldn't want anyone to lose an eye, so don't, you know, hurl them. But yeah, I get it. I get it. Yes, ma'am.
Throwing rocks.
Throwing a rock can be dangerous, you know. So if you're doing it to make someone go, oh, you're throwing the line. But
at the really like defense force, because you're
at the same time, if you're fighting against guns with rocks,
that's still violence, right?
It
and
still is violence.
I don't know if we'll say that we advocate for it, but we support that like Palestinians defending themselves, right? And to defend yourself sometimes means
and I believe in the right to free speech, and so if they want to protest, I believe that they have the right to do that.
Yeah, I think they do too. And you know, there's absolutely a fine line of where it's not okay, but it takes some real consideration, I think is the right word, to figure out where you draw the line. And you can have a really principled position on it. And when you do, you need to, I think you need to decide what two examples are above the line and below the line.
Right.
And it really does, take some consideration and a lot of mental.
I mean, I can only imagine years and years and years of being abused by cops and the mob for being who you are. There's going to come a time where you either say no more or you die,
And I
or you
mean,
say no more and die.
it's not even just the just authority figures like police. I mean, I for one don't apologize to anyone when I hear a story of something more gruesome, like um, like a little girl in a family who's been sexually abused for most of her life and stands up and commits violence against
Right.
her father
No,
or her uncle or her.
Those stories fascinate me as well.
Yeah.
They do.
Uh,
Those stories fascinate me as well.
yeah.
I don't think that anybody, man or woman or non-bi, it doesn't, a human that has been abused by an adult through childhood and then finally one day snaps and does violence towards that person,
Yeah.
they should still face charges for doing the violence against that person. However, that has to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely.
Um,
And
it,
we
it
call
can't
that
not.
the oppressor and the oppressed,
Yes.
right? Whether it's on a huge population scale, a small population scale, or a singular person, being a young child, boy or girl, someone who is threatened with violence at the workplace, like actual physical violence at the workplace or sexual violence at the workplace, and they want to kick someone in the nuts or punch someone in the mouth. Like, I'm hard pressed to say, like, I'm okay with that.
I
Like,
am too.
I'm even okay with
I am.
you
Maybe
do.
they won't touch you again. You know, when you finally
Yeah,
stand up and say "fucking no," bah, you know, they're not dead.
Right.
I can't blame them. I really can't either.
I think there's absolutely, and this is me coming from how I look at things as a martial artist. If someone comes at me and threatens violence on me, like for my wallet or just because they don't like my face or they're drunk or something, I will put a person down. But then when you put a person down, like when you now have the upper hand, you become the oppressor.
I agree.
So you have the choice to stop.
Yeah.
And to stop oppressing and to stop assaulting, because now you are the assaultant. Like, I think when
No, that's so true.
when you turn the tables, you need to be responsible and you should not be held accountable. Like that initial turning the table, like punching someone in the face,
Yeah,
and
they're trying to abuse you. Yeah.
like you should stop too, or else you should be held accountable for your actions. Punch someone in the face because they're pushing you around or hitting someone else or something, like you shouldn't be held accountable for that first turning the tables or leveling the playing field. I feel like
I wouldn't personally do that, but I also understand and wouldn't blame someone if that's how it went down.
I call it, when I teach self-defense, rising to the level of violence. That's what I call it. You rise to the level of violence, because if you don't rise to the level of violence, you will continue to get hurt, or you will start getting hurt. Right. You need to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, it's about survival.
That, you need to ask or order someone to stop. You need to de-escalate and you need to calm it down before you get yourself in trouble or you do something that you're going to regret forever, because everyone's a person, right? And this is that's how I really try to look at it. I try to personalize it. Again, I teach martial arts. I try to have a really responsible
Max, my karate kid,
work on this. Because when you're teaching someone self-defense, they always think, well, maybe I'll have to use it, right? When you buy a gun, you don't buy a gun because you think you're never going to use a gun. You buy a gun because
You
maybe
hope
I'm
you don't
allowed
have
to use a gun.
but maybe.
And it's really easy to beat someone up too much or shoot someone dead. It's
Yeah,
really easy to go too far with trying to defend yourself.
right.
And that's the reason that like we don't like the stand your ground laws and such and so on. Like because if you don't define defending yourself well enough,
Without killing them.
you become the assaultant, right? The assaultor. And when you are just a bunch of queer people dancing at a gay bar, you aren't hurting anyone. Anyone
Amen
who
to
comes
that.
in to try to disrupt your peaceful time,
That's exactly their
you
point.
are oppressing the oppressees.
Now imagine it's that,
Yes.
but times 20.
Yeah.
Right.
And eventually, because who do you turn to when something is happening to you that is unjustified?
Right.
Who do you turn to?
Well, you're supposed to be able to turn to the cops.
And if it's the cops, what do you do?
Right. Exactly. At that point, you have to defend yourself.
Yeah, you accept. So yeah, you have to defend yourself, and maybe defending yourself is I need to do what this person says, or I'm gonna get way more hurt than I need to.
Right. And that's, hey, listen, I respect the shit out of you if you were able to keep it together and just deal with the fucking abuse to get it over with to survive. You are a survivor, and don't let anyone say any different, because that takes a whole different level of adulting. Like, whew, I don't even know.
And
Don't,
sometimes,
it's never your fault either, even if you don't do anything to because you want to survive and just
yeah,
make it through.
I will remind everyone. For those of you who weren't watching when I've said it before, I hold what's his name, knee on the neck of George Floyd.
Yes,
Um,
we'll probably get it here in our chat.
yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
get this.
I know who you're talking about.
Chauvin, Derek Chauvin. I remember now, Derek Chauvin. I hold him responsible
Yes.
for assaulting and murdering George Floyd because I know how to hold someone down like that, and I know it's not necessary. That's not de-escalating anything at all.
No,
Like,
that's
it doesn't matter if he
murdering.
tried to kill you 15 seconds ago. Doesn't fucking matter when you neutralize a person like that. Just Derek Chauvin, not the other 3 or 4 cops who were on him. Just him. That's just murder. That's just too much. Now, I'm trying to make my point. I hold him accountable. That's a given. I also hold accountable, not just the other cops who let him do it. I hold the crowd responsible.
Yeah, the
Those who
citizens.
said get off. Everyone who was watching who was too scared to jump that officer who was committing a murder, I say that was justifiable. Like you should have kicked that cop's teeth in.
They didn't want to die either.
Fucked him up. If he shot someone, everyone should have strangled him on the street. Like,
Right.
you need to ride
No,
to the
it's
because
the whole thing in hindsight is just so horrible. And I know that just as a human, those people that witnessed it are going to live with that forever, that they watched a person die and didn't do shit to stop it. So I think that I don't think that it's going to be put up with. I really don't. I think people are going to start, maybe it was just spending this week in an uprising, but I do see it. I see this energy happening all over the place. And I could feel like that StoneWall energy, at many things that are going on right now. And so I think that we will come to a time within a very short time from now where people, citizens, passerbys, people that are there witnessing a crime done by cops are not going to put up with it, especially if they're not alone, if there are others with them. And everybody has a phone, so if you just start putting that stuff live, there's nothing they can do. It's already out there.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. We need, in solidarity, a human is a human is a human, and human rights should mean a human. And if they do things or believe in things that you don't, or that you find stupid, that does not mean that their rights are any less than yours. And that is something we should always fight for.
They're just as American as you are, or just
Very
as
American.
or just
Yeah.
as Canadian, right?
Or Australia.
We're all human. We all have faults. We all have false beliefs. We all usually think we're right. And we all have different standards, right? Morality is not objective.
No.
And it is very subjective. And the best you can do is practice as much empathy as you possibly fucking can. And to stay humanist as for godless sake. If you have anything else to say.
No, that was wonderful. You should
Okay.
stay humanist for godless sakes, because we're all we got. And that's all we got this week, you guys. How do you like that? Boom, boom.